Garoppolo's not that far apart. We're not miles apart on what we think Jimmy Garoppolo is. But man, and I'm not here to absolve the guy of blame. He's the quarterback. He has the most impact on winning and losing on the football field of anybody out there. But man, Kyle Shanahan took blame for him. Now Jimmy still needs to know where he is on the field, but bad play call for where you are on the field. The fumbled snap. Shanahan said today that was on Jake Brendel. That wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo's fault.
Let's hear.
Are we going to forget Fred Wilson fumbled on a drive where you could have gone down and won the game? But all anybody wants to talk about today is, and I get it, because all anybody wanted to talk about was Trey Lance, and now all anybody wants to talk about is Jimmy Garoppolo. That's the nature of the quarterback position. But man, there are 52 other guys that go out there and play on a Sunday.
They lost that game because of Jimmy G. Jimmy G lost that game for them.
Complete offensive failure.
And I'll prove it. I'll prove it in a couple minutes. I would say not complete offensive failure. They could have made a couple of plays. Your quarterback missed those couple of plays, just like he missed the big play in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your in general.
Okay.
When you look at some of these plays, but before I get to some of those plays, let's first hear Kyle Shanahan, a defeated man last night in the postgame, try to protect his quarterback because he stepped out of bounds, which we haven't seen since Dan Orlovsky like 20 years ago. So we're going to have Davion Mitchell come over in a couple minutes here. But I just want to point out some of the plays. He missed Debo. Debo was wide open for a touchdown. He missed him. His downfield pass to Debo that went for like 30 yards, that should have been a touchdown if Jimmy G threw it.
Not going to argue with you there.
Right. He forced the pass to Debo Samuel again, which
turned out to be an interception.
Ended up being an interception.
Not arguing with you.
I mean, he stepped out of bounds, which literally gave them 2 points, which was the difference of the game. If he makes any of those plays, if he makes the throw to Debo, they win. If he makes the second throw to Debo, they win. If he doesn't step out of bounds, they win. Jimmy G lost that football game last night. Simple as that. He was bad. He was as bad as you can be. That dude was terrible. Russell Wilson wasn't good. Jimmy G made Russell Wilson look good. Somewhat. Because there wasn't much saving Russell Wilson either. All right, let's get to
I'd make the case it wasn't all Jimmy G, but I'm not going to make our guess wait. That takes precedence.
Yes. It does. Davion takes precedent over your opinion. I'm sorry.
No, totally understand that. Totally understand that.
We'll be joined by Domas in a little bit, but right now we're joined by our friend Davion Mitchell. I had Davion on the show last year when I was a solo host. Davion, you're with Cattles and Ramie here at Sactown Sports.
Good to meet you, man.
And the first thing I want to ask you is the off season. What would you do during the off season? What'd you work on?
Did a lot, man. I think I did a lot of traveling. Definitely doing a lot of work in the gym. Worked on a lot of catching and shooting. Kind of being that present off the ball this season. Things like that.
So is that your main focus, being that off ball guard and working on your catch and shoot game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially because you got a lot of key pieces in our team who can handle the ball, so you kind of want to still be on the floor or be comfortable on the floor, kind of just be that spacer. But also just working things on the ball too. I'm still working on things like that, but the main focus is kind of just being off the ball.
Davion Mitchell with us. Davion, of course, last year you had the three guards, right? You had De'Aaron, you had Hallie, you had yourself. Halliburton was traded. How much did that help kind of open up your game when Hallie was out? Just because you had more minutes at the position that you're used to playing.
Yeah, you definitely get more opportunity. Have the ball in your hands a little bit more. Coming off the ball, making those reads. I mean, Hallie kind of taught me a little bit about that, and also being a leader on the floor, things like that. Yeah.
We were talking the other day about the fact that this is really Monty McNair's team. Just three guys that weren't either signed, traded for, or drafted by him. And you're obviously one of his guys. At the trade deadline last year, when the roster started to transform, and we saw that continue in the offseason, did you feel a palpable change in the team and the vibe and the way things felt around here?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially after the day that Tyrese got traded, everyone was kind of hurt from that. I remember just playing the game that day and then playing the Timberwolves, and I was kind of hurt from it. I mean, just because he was one of the best friends of my team.
Sure.
But Monty, I think, made a really great decision in both decisions. I mean, Tyrese is really good over there with Indiana. He's kind of been that main guard in that first year. Down here with Domas, he's really good. He can play off the ball. He gets really vocal leader and things like that. He can pass. So I think Monty made the right decision.
Davion Mitchell with us here on Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. You know, it was kind of unfortunate last year, right? Because it felt like Domas and Fox were learning how to play alongside each other. Then they had some injury issues. When you look at those two guys, what do you think the ceiling is of them as your teammates and how you can play together and offer them.
I think that, the sky's the limit for both of them. Because they both, especially with Fox and getting the paint, his abilities to finish, people are going to be kind of afraid with that, so they're going to kind of help. So I kind of just, like I said, being that space from the court and the dome line. He's a talent where he can pass the ball better than like a lot of people can shoot, and he can also score the ball. And he's also been working on his shooting, so I think it's going to make it a lot harder, especially them two in the ball.
The playoff drought is on Kings fans' minds. There's no way around that, Davion. Is that something that's on your guys' minds, or is it just come out and prepare every day?
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of been on everyone's mind, and that's the thing in Sacramento. But we just try to go out there and be the hardest team to play every day. And just I think the main thing is we're going to play defense. I think this year we're going to come in a defensive-minded team, and I think that's going to win us a lot more games.
Davion Mitchell with us. Davion, of course, you started with Luke Walton, and then last year Coach Gentry took over. Now it's Coach Mike Brown. How do you feel about Coach Brown, and what have you learned from him so far? And kind of how do you see him handling this basketball team this year? What should we expect from a Mike Brown coach team?
Like I said before, being the hardest playing team out there. I think that he's going to emphasize that in training camp. Being a defensive-minded team, seeing how detailed he is, just talking with him, having conversations with him. I think that he's going to change the culture of this team. Like you said, he's a big culture guy, and I think that's one thing we need.
We in the media and as basketball fans, and I'm sure before you got to the league, you were a basketball fan. You did this too. We sit here and we try and figure out, all right, what's the lineup? Who's the starting five? Is that something that's been communicated to you guys yet, or is it still fluid as far as who's where and what everybody's role is?
Yeah, we really don't know. We kind of know the obvious roles, but you really don't know. Going in, I think everyone just try to go in and take it day by day and just play hard, and whatever your team needs you to do, that's what you're going to do.
As the offseason rolled along and you see the additions, right? You see Malik Monk, you see the Kevin Huerter trade, you see Keegan Murray getting drafted. As you're watching the pieces come together, how much sense did it make to you? Hey, we're going to bring in some guys who can catch and shoot and play off of Fox and Beaumont.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense. Because even last year, it kind of wasn't really a lot of catch and shoot guys on our team. We had a lot of guys who could play on the ball. I think this year we had a taste of it last year. Seeing that, man, we need some catch and shoot guys who can just space the floor. Also, who can play defense. Also, really good defense. And I think the league and Kevin are really good people in this team. They're kind of going to be really good leaders on our team. Keegan, a guy who's confident, who can versatility, can shoot the mid range, shoot the three. So I think it makes a lot more sense.
Folks are going to hear this tomorrow. We had a chance to talk with Keegan Murray. And when you see him on TV, you pick up on this. But when we were talking to him, he seems years and years ahead of where he should be in terms of his maturity level. Is that, do you guys pick that up too, or is that just something that's sort of overstated by us in the media?
No, we definitely pick it up. He's definitely, I think he's definitely a professional. Even coming in the first year, you can just call him a professional. He's kind of going to do things the right way. He doesn't speak much, but he's going to get that out of him.
Last one from me, because I know you got a bunch of other stuff to do, Davion. We appreciate your time. But you're known as a defensive guy, and I think some of that, I talked to you last year. I forgot who you caught a body, and we laughed about it. You killed somebody last year. I'm trying to remember who. You murdered somebody, unfortunately, on the court. A homicide. It was homicide. I felt bad. I don't know if you felt bad afterwards. But, everybody talks about your defensive ability. And watching you, I keep telling people, the mechanics are there shooting-wise, off the dribble, catch and shoot. I think you're much better offensively, ceiling-wise, than people, realize, because they kind of fit you in one box, which is the wrong thing to do. How do you feel like your game's coming along, and how do you feel how you're going to work off of Fox and Domas and other guys like Malik talked about his playmaking ability? You feel like you've taken steps over the last several months to kind of get to a higher level shooting the basketball for yourself?
Yeah, I think last year, at the end of the season, kind of played a big part of my game. Learning, kind of being that guard out there, just to not just make mistakes, but just to learn from throughout the season. I made a lot of mistakes, and towards the end of the year, I started getting better, started feel comfortable being who I am. I can shoot. You got a confidence that you got to go out there and know that you can keep the ball. And I think that's my motivation.
What's Davion Mitchell doing when he's not hooping?
Other than watching basketball, I'm playing video games.
Madden? What's your game?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
That shoot 'em up, bang bang game going on there. His name is Davion Mitchell. Davion, I love talking to you last year. I love the conversation today, man. Hopefully we'll catch up with you soon. And just stay healthy, and I think everything else will fall into place. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it, David.
Appreciate you. There goes Davion Mitchell from here at Sactown Sports. Full day at Kings Media Day. We'll take a quick break, right back within like 90 seconds, and you will hear in 90 seconds. You will hear from Domas.
Sorry, guys. It'll probably be about 10. He just went to go do a station, so we'll bring him right after that. Sorry about that.
So it worked for him, it worked for you.
Minutes. What happened here? Let's add some context.
You're a liar.
You can
You're
certainly call me a liar. Yeah. I mean, I did technically lie. But we had Domas ready. Domas was supposed to join us at about 3:10, and then Davion was free earlier than anticipated, so he came on over. So you take the interview that's there. So we did that.
Sure.
And as Domas was waiting to come on after Davion was done, he got funneled to another station, so he'll be here in a couple minutes. But it just gives me a couple more minutes to drill Jimmy G and his awfulness.
I think you covered it all in the first segment.
No, I need more.
Look, I can't. You laid out the plays that he missed. That he
missed 2 touchdowns.
Okay, but couldn't we also point
wide open?
I get it, man. I get it.
Not a tight window.
I'm not here to defend those plays. And again, the quarterback has more effect and impact on winning or losing than anybody on that field. So he deserves the scrutiny, and they also deserve the credit when things are going well. But to sit here today and act like an offensive failure to the degree that we saw yesterday is all on one person is just a false narrative, man. So many people had to contribute for that to be as bad as it was, that to just sit here and say it's all on Jimmy G is simplifying it way too much, Nick. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not going to say that's not fair to Jimmy G, because that implies that he deserves better, and he doesn't today.
All right, let's say
that
everything went according to how it went last night, right? Like everything happened the same way, but Jimmy G made one of those 2 passes. They win the game. Complete offensive failure. They win the game if he makes the throw. He's an NFL quarterback. He's a starting NFL quarterback. He was making more than $25 million a year before he had to restructure his contract right before the season kicked off. All he had to do was make one more play than he did.
He's a back. You and I both know he's a backup quarterback.
It's on him. When your starting quarterback misses 2 golden opportunities to throw a touchdown, Kyle Shanahan called the right play in that instance. They ran the right play. Debo ran the right route. The offensive line protected Jimmy Garoppolo. Everybody did their job on those 2 throws that he missed. If you make one of those 2 throws, you win the game. If you don't inexcusably step out of bounds, you win the game. So, yes, Jimmy G is the reason why they lost that game.
The reason.
Yes.
Sole reason.
Yes.
The only reason.
Yes.
That's crazy. And also,
Well, no, I'm not saying the only. I'm saying he is the leader in the pack. I mean, if you want to split the blame pie, I'm putting it mostly on Jimmy G. And I would also say about his game, Kyle Shanahan told us an awful lot of thought towards the end of the first half. He had a 2-minute drill. 2-minute drill. You had timeouts. What do? Ran the football on first and second down. What that's telling you is I don't
the ball out of Jimmy's hands, and I don't see how you can blame a guy for what he does when the ball's taken out of his hands.
Because he doesn't trust him. Because Jimmy doesn't give him reasons to trust him. Because Jimmy throws it on a third down. He throws it 5 feet behind Debo for an incomplete pass. Because he throws into double coverage when that window was never open, and he tries to force it in there in a one-possession game and throws a pick. Because he has a wide open Debo down the right sideline and just doesn't see him as he's running down the field, his arm up.
But Nick, you're giving yourself a damn near 0% chance of scoring when you handle that drive the way he did at the end of the half. What do you have to lose in putting the ball in Jimmy G's hands a little bit more? Because you're not going to win football games playing the way, the style that they played yesterday. And I know everybody, and even I did it to a degree, Nick, rolls their eyes when they hear Jimmy come out in the post-game press conference and say, I didn't have a full off season, blah, blah, blah. And we can roll our eyes. We can snicker at that. We can call it excuses all we want. But a guy's coming off of shoulder surgery, so he goes through rehab. And, Nick, you and I were sitting here 3-4 weeks ago, and you were saying, I don't see how he can be a part of this team,
right,
given the way that they've treated him. And I don't say that in a malicious way, but the way that they've treated him in terms of his day-to-day regimen and practice and workout routine. He didn't have a playbook, man. We expect him to just run out there and be even the level of Jimmy G that we saw last year, given the offseason that he had. We just expect him to run out there and be that guy.
Few things. Number one, he's been practicing for the last month. Enough with the practice stuff. He's played in the NFL for enough years.
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
You're playing for. He came back before the season kicked off. You have a week in between the final preseason game and the first game. He's been practicing for about a month. Secondly, the playbook. It's the same playbook that he's had for years. It's the same offense that he has run. And maybe, just maybe, if he actually gave a crap, according to reports during the off seasons, maybe he would know the playbook a little bit better. So,
I wouldn't be returning calls this offseason either.
It's the same playbook, okay? It's the same playbook. And I would also say about, why did they run the football in a 2-minute drill? I'll tell you why. Because his head coach did not trust him enough to throw the football in that situation. Because he said, no, he can throw a pick, and all of a sudden...
Then you shouldn't have brought him back. If you trusted him that little, you shouldn't have brought him back. It should be Brock Purdy there right now.
I think it tells us everything we need to know.
Then you shouldn't have brought him back. If you trust a quarterback that little, he has no business being on your roster.
Again, text line, 916-339-1140. Nick, all in caps, hates him some Jimmy G. No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
Reality. Look,
it's okay. You can admit it.
Being honest. Listen, being honest is not hating on somebody. Being honest isn't being mean to somebody. He's not a very good quarterback. If you watch that game last night and think he's a good quarterback, I'm sorry, you might not want to watch football for the next 3 months.
I don't change my opinion on any quarterback or any player based on one game. I knew what Jimmy G was coming into that game, and I still know what Jimmy G is. He's a slightly above average quarterback.
And we agree. He's an average quarterback who will play slightly above average at times, given the matchup. He'll make a couple of good throws, and he will also give you weeks, plural, of games like last night. If he was anything better than average, he would not give you games like last night. And he does. He gives them to you. He gives them to you every year. What we saw from him last night is what he is. He's not a very good quarterback. So I'm not hating on the guy. I'm just telling people that they think that he's the reason why they got on these deep runs.
No, I just think I think blaming that loss and the performance of the offense yesterday entirely on him is almost as misguided as giving him credit for deep runs.
All he had to do was make 1 out of 4 plays last night. They win that football game. 916-339-1140. He's Rami. I'm Nick. We're still waiting for Domas to make the rounds. He should be with us in a couple of minutes. I promise you, he will join us. He's just off at another station right now. We'll take a quick break. Right back with Domantas Sabonis, Cattles, Ramie, Sactown Sports, live from Kings Media Day. I figured we'd squeeze this in, JJ, while he's not near us. We can always jump out if we need to, but he's not.
I don't see him.
He's not walking towards us or anything, so I think we'll be able to squeeze this entire break in. Just telling the truth.
Who? Oh,
I know.
they should know.
Yeah, I just talked to the.
I just don't know how anybody in their right mind could be like texting me, being like, "You're a Jimmy G hater after last night." Just telling you how bad he was. That's as bad as a quarterback game I've seen in a long time. He was that
It
bad.
was pretty bad. Russell Wilson was
Cameron
the only one
watching
who was
the Bears
maybe
like I have.
just as bad.
I'm used to
Yeah.
that.
Fair point. Fair point.
Christian Ponder.
Debo all alone running down the field, his arm up. Hey, hello. And then he had Debo and he saw him in terrible ball placement. If he led Debo the right way down the left sideline, that's a touchdown. And the myth, the legend himself, sitting across from me, DeMontis Sabonis, joins us here. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports at Kings Media Day. I've started every single one of these interviews the same way today, Domas. What'd you do in the offseason? How'd things go?
What I do? Definitely kept busy.
Kept busy?
Kept busy. Worked out. Spent time with family and friends, and played in the Eurobasket. So
Yeah.
Had a short off season.
Saw a lot
In
of
terms
those.
of resting.
Saw a lot of those highlights of
Yeah.
Eurobasket tournament that you were in. I also saw a lot of these clips going around social media, you working on your jump shot, specifically from
Yeah.
three-point land.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that work and how you feel about your shot coming into the season.
I feel good. Obviously, there's definitely room to improve. Just like every summer, every player, there's room to improve. And I definitely feel more confident. Chris has been amazing with me, and we just want to get better. And the more I can get to work with him, even during the season or whenever, it's going to be great for me.
That's been one of the evolutions in the game of basketball here in recent years, is the shooting big man. Was that ever something coming into the league that you thought you'd have to work on and try and improve as much as you have, or do you just think I'll just go there and be big and dominate the paint?
when your dad's Arvidas Sabonis, you hear that every day. Free throws, mid-range.
He knew it. He was told. Domantas Sabonis, Domas with us here, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. Domas, I was talking to Davion and a couple of the other guys earlier, and I was bummed out because when you came over, you and De'Aaron, it seemed like it clicked pretty quick for both of you guys. And then you both had injury issues prop up, and you're left kind of sitting there watching the team. Does it feel like kind of you're like right back on the bicycle with De'Aaron, and you feel really comfortable and confident with this offense and how the rest of the guys fit around you now?
Oh yeah, definitely. Basically they're just helping us excel our pick and roll game at a higher level with amazing talent around us. Shooters, drivers, they can do a bit of everything. So it's just going to open up a lot of things, give us options to get other guys open, and I'm really excited. Tomorrow we'll find out a lot more about the offense and how things go, so I can tell you a lot more.
I think whatever the offense is aside, a lot of Kings fans are looking to you and De'Aaron as that dynamic duo that's going to end this playoff drought. Do you feel that pressure or those expectations at all, or is it just ball to you?
To us, it's just we're a new team. We're going into the season like every NBA team. Everybody wants that special feeling at the end of the year that only one team gets. And if we work our way towards that, a lot of things are going to get accomplished. And we just got to ignore the noise, do our job, and it starts tomorrow.
Domas with us here, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. When you're looking around, Domas, and you see the moves, right? We know the Western Conference is a pretty tough conference, right? Very talented. I just saw a comment, by the way, you might know that Paul George apparently during Media Day just said he named the Sacramento Kings as a team that could give you fits this year. So he said they asked him about who might surprise you in the Western Conference. He named you guys. But when you see the additions, Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, you draft Keegan Murray. What is Domas, the basketball brain, thinking when he sees all these moves being made?
A lot of shooting, a lot of movement, a lot of assists. If guys want to get buckets, just cut and move. I'm excited. There's a lot of good pieces for a big man like me that likes to pass. These guys can hoop. They're excited. I've seen it here in pickup. I've seen it during workouts, and I'm really excited for training camp to start. So everyone knows their role and our system of moving, and so I can start studying, learning it, and trying to get the best out of it.
You just lit up when he just named off all those shooters.
It's a big.
Other people have brought up when you ask that, they say, a lot of shooters. I haven't seen somebody light up and almost be at a loss of words when he listed it off the way that you just were. You look forward to that, creating for these guys and passing and finding the open man.
As a big man, pick and roll, playing in the post, having guys that can shoot around you, can move, they're athletic, can finish. They're not just shooters; they can handle the ball, play with pick and roll. So there's just so many options for everything, like DHOs, backdoors, pick and rolls, moving, cuts, so I'm excited. I don't know what else to say.
Domas is with us. I said this, if you look at the coaching staff, right, and I want your take on this. Mike Brown with the Warriors, Draymond Green, right, passing big man. You also look at Jordi Fernandez coming from Denver and Jokic. Is that kind of – I know you said you'll learn more about it tomorrow, but when you watch where those guys were last year and how they utilize the big men passing the basketball, does that click in your head and say, I could play the elbow extended, I could play we could run a lot of those motions off of me?
Yeah, of course. I've done that in the past. Coming here now with new coaching staff. We walked through some things, some terminology of catching in the elbow or motion offense, and they're putting me in good positions to succeed. Like these players you said, Jay Triano also came from Charlotte with Mason Plumlee. That's why their offense was so good, getting everyone moving. Basically, we're just putting talented guys like the list you said in great positions to succeed. And then that eventually leads to great ball movement, great offense.
I'm old enough, and I know Nick is old enough to remember when your dad was in the league, and he was one of my favorite players to watch because he was a different style center than we saw a lot in the States. You talked about how he influenced your game and hammered home the free throw, the mid-range, the three-point. Off the court, has he told you anything, or is he just sort of there if you need him to deal with the NBA life?
Growing up, he's always just let me do my own thing. He's never tried to push me or do anything. Just one thing was always take care of your body, recover. You came through many injuries. I'm just be smart, take care of your body. Apart from that, sometimes says things there or there. Like I always look for the passes. Like, look at the rim first. Look at the rim thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he always wants you to be a bit more aggressive because then that just eventually makes the pass even easier. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that mid-range game for him is just shoot the mid-range.
Domas is with us here at Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. One of the questions that we've had all off-season long is you and Rashawn Holmes. And it was a question late last year. Can these two guys play together? Do you think you two guys can play together?
Yeah, of course. I think it's a thing that can be played. I don't know if it can be played all game, but we have the right coaching staff to put us in the right position. So if it's a certain number of minutes of a quarter or a game where coach thinks we have an advantage, I think it could be great.
Talking with Domas Sabonis here at Kings Media Day on Sactown Sports, 1140. What's Domas doing when he's not playing basketball?
Spending time with the family, talking to friends, playing board games. I don't know, a bit of everything.
Board games.
Yeah.
We've gotten the gamers.
Board
We
games.
haven't heard the board
What's
game
your favorite
answer.
board game? You gotta-
Scrabble? What are we doing?
Monopoly?
Clue?
We just got a new game. My wife's family we play all the games, so they just brought a new one. It's Monopoly, but on cards. I don't know what it's called.
Monopoly on cards.
So it's cards. You're basically picking up cards and you're playing.
Really?
I don't know the name. Probably the people listening know what it is.
Somebody will comment. Yeah.
It's way better than Monopoly.
Wait a minute. It's better than Monopoly.
It's quicker. You don't have to be there all day.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm playing, it's quicker. You got to play, you got to do that, and there's more excitement. You're not waiting for everyone to roll, and then you got to until your turn. So there's more interaction.
That is the thing about
Yeah.
Monopoly. A competitive game of Monopoly can take days.
Exactly.
It's called Monopoly Deal.
Monopoly Deal. That's it.
And on
Yep.
Amazon, 4.8 stars, 29,000 reviews.
There you go.
Look at that. No joke,
There you
Domas.
go.
You dominating the family in Monopoly deals? Or
Actually, yes. I'm doing pretty good. My wife's brother is very competitive, and I beat him 3 times, and I'm so happy.
I hate to bring it back to basketball, but I have a question for you. A lot of people talk about you and De'Aaron both being left-handed.
Yeah.
Do you think it's an advantage? Do you think it's that big of a deal, or you just say, no, we both know how to play basketball?
I don't understand why it's a big deal. It's pick and roll. It's basketball. He can go left, he can go right. I can go left, he can go right. The teams are going to guard us certain ways in pick and rolls. If they do one way, well, I just flip the screen. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I don't think it's much of a problem, especially with a guy who De'Aaron, who's great going both ways, who has the talent to do everything. So I don't know. Like I said, there's always noise. There's always noise, and you just do your job.
You ever got to name names? You ever played with anybody who was thrown off by it? Not
By what?
By you being left-handed
Left-handed.
and just being on the other side of the court.
I never.
Because it seems like it is
think about
overblown.
it. I never think about it, but guys guarding me like, oh damn, he's left-handed. Like it's way different harder. Like, oh, I can't guard left-handed. Like, for me, it's just me. That's how I play basketball. So I can't really comment on that.
All right, last one for you. Just your thoughts on Keegan Murray. A lot of excitement in the city about him. And, Ramie has said it a couple times today. And we talked to Keegan earlier about how mature he is. Just his basketball game. We know his maturity, but what do you see from him early on? And I'm sure you watch Summer League.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Keegan being a part?
I'm excited. Everyone saw Summer League. Great things. Can shoot. And he's calm. He doesn't need the ball. He's still going to drop his whatever he needs to do, and he's a shooter. That's what we need, defense, active, whatever. I don't know. I think for us to fit, it's perfect. It was a perfect match.
Well, that'll do it. Don't mess with this man. Apparently, Monopoly deal. Monopoly deal. Domas is a badass with Monopoly deal. Don't mess with this man. He's ferocious on the floor, but wait until you get a hand of Monopoly.
Brings it.
All hell breaks loose.
Brings it.
Domas, you were great, man. We wish you good luck and good health this year. We're all excited for the basketball team, and I was here last year and watched the tail end when you came over, and I was a big fan of the trade, and I think you're going to help this basketball team win games, so we appreciate you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right, there goes Domas Sabonis with
Thank you,
us, joining us here at Sactown Sports, Cattles and Ramie. We're going to take a quick break.
Thank you,
We'll
guys.
be back, talk about the Las Vegas Raiders and how much trouble they could be in. There goes Domas walking away. Again, Kings Media Day on this Monday. He's Ramie. I'm Cattles, Sactown Sports.
How long is this break, JJ? Nature is calling. Oh, okay. I'll be right back.
Yeah, man. Capital Casino, conveniently located on 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento. So I'm going to do a little bit of a rundown here quickly before we get into the 0-3 Las Vegas Raiders. First and foremost, Keegan Murray will be on tomorrow's show. We talked to Keegan a little bit earlier today. You'll hear from Keegan Murray tomorrow afternoon. We also have, I'm trying to think of who else we had. Malik Monk. You'll hear from Malik Monk as well. He stopped by. And at 4:13, about a half hour from right now, you'll hear from Trey Lyles. And also we had Kent Bazemore come by too. So you'll be hearing a lot of that over the next couple of days. I'm sure we might, replay Domas and in the, later on in the show tomorrow or Wednesday. But we had a great day here at Kings Media Day. I will tell you that. Domas, if you missed it, you can check it out. Podcast page, sactownsports.com. I'm sure, like I just said, we'll replay it later in the week as well because I thought Domas was fantastic. Davion Mitchell joined us in this hour. I thought he was really good. So you can catch those interviews at sactownsports.com. And also, I will tell you, Dave and Jason were sitting right next to us. So Dave and Jason also had a number of players come by. De'Aaron Fox.
Kevin Herter.
Harrison Barnes.
That's right.
I believe Rashawn Holmes also went by there. So I'm sure, Dave and Jason tomorrow will have all of those interviews. So, you'll hear from Foxy tomorrow. You'll hear from Harrison Barnes tomorrow and more. So
nobody covers the Kings like Sactown Sports.
Nobody.
Cattles.
In the house.
That's right.
And I will also say thanks to the Kings organization today. They were fantastic. They got us everybody that they said that they were going to get us. They came on by, so hopefully the listeners enjoyed it. And we'll have a lot more the rest of this week, and a lot of things were said. I will say again before we get into the Raiders, and I know, look, it's media day, and everybody's feeling good, everybody's confident stuff, but you do feel like this team knows that it's more talented than it's been recently, and there's a pretty good energy and excitement around the guys going in. I think they legitimately look at this roster and say, we've got a chance. We have a legitimate chance to compete and to win some basketball games this year. So I felt it from really every guy. But the ones that made the biggest impression to me were Malik Monk. Had a great vibe to him.
Yeah.
And again, you'll hear that interview tomorrow. And Domas was fantastic. So I think there's some optimism. And again, I know it's media day, but there is some legitimate optimism coming from these guys, whether they're saying it on the air or off the air, about this team competing and having the talent. And you do feel that depth and that talent. And it's obvious the guys feel the same way.
You don't know, and we won't know until the games start being played, Nick, and we get a little bit into the season. But you're right that the belief in what they're building here, from not just a basketball standpoint, but a culture standpoint, they believe in what they're doing here. But we'll see if that's just the newness of all this that they're feeling, or if it's legit. But right now, it's real.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Raiders felt really optimistic before the season kicked off, and they had the most talent they've had in a while, and Josh McDaniels was the new head coach in town, and there was a change in culture and a change in this and a change in that, and now you wake up today and the Raiders are 0-3. And the Villagers are not happy. There were a lot of unhappy people in that locker room yesterday after the Raiders lost in Tennessee. Let's first hear from that head coach, Josh McDaniels. Hey. Got a bleep. We got a bleep from Josh.
Kids are watching.
Feeling
Josh,
feeling poopy. We'll clean it up. Feeling poopy is what he said. Let's get to somebody else who was a little upset yesterday.
Also feeling poopy.
With a third straight loss to begin the year was quarterback Derek Carr. So you heard from the head coach, you heard from the quarterback, both, again, not happy. And then
Poopy
we had
and
Poopy and Sucky. And then we had Devontae Adams, who was asked by the media if he was frustrated or angry. Here's what Adams had to say to that. Oh, both. Rami, I know you said on Friday when we were talking about this game, both teams coming in at 0-2, Titans Raiders. You did not feel good about the team who lost this game, and obviously that was the Raiders. Just kind of your thoughts where they're at, and are you ready to write them off? Are they done in your eyes?
Yeah, it's a wrap. Cancel Christmas. Kiss the baby. Whatever expression you want to use, it's over for the Las Vegas Raiders. I gave this number on Friday. It bears repeating today, Nick. From 1970 to 2001, 233 teams have started their year 0-3. Of them, 2.6%.
I was going to say, that's not good.
Have made the playoffs, according to Pro Football Reference. Since 2000, it's only happened once. That was the Texans in 2018. Not only is this an 0-3 football team, Nick, and I just gave you the odds of what it is for an 0-3 football team to make the playoffs. There is some problems here, man. There are some real problems here that are going to take some figuring out, and the schedule doesn't get easier.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't get any easier for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
It's over, man. It's over.
It does not get easier. And think about it. And I know the AFC West hasn't been as good as people thought it was going to be. And the Chiefs, by the way, got some issues offensively. But I digress. In that division, in this conference, it's nearly impossible for them to make this kind of a turnaround. 0-3 is, as Rami just told you, has been mostly a death knell in NFL recent history, if not just history in itself. Now, let's start with Josh McDaniels, because I think what jumped out at me about yesterday's game the most was his play calling. And first of all, I'm tired of the trick plays. Like, trick plays work every once in a while, okay? It's not a terrible idea to run a trick play when you catch a team off guard. But McDaniels loves trick plays. He calls plenty of them. And he also calls them at bad times. Like, his offense will have momentum, and all of a sudden they'll try some trick play. It'll backfire, and they lose 10 yards. And now you're, like, starting all over again on offense. The trick plays drive me nuts. I've been saying this since week one. His run-pass balance as a play caller is way off. I said on Friday going against the Titans, they were giving up 6 yards a carry to the opposition. That should have been a game where you just ran it down their throats over and over and over again. They didn't run the football enough in the first half. And also just no feel for the game. You know, when I looked at this, my notes from yesterday, you're looking at a situation, right? I'll give you one example where you have no feel for the game. Nearly the beginning of the second half, the third quarter here. Scores 24-13. You just kicked the field goal. You have some momentum. Tannehill throws a pick. So you just kicked the field goal. Tannehill throws a pick. You're set up at the Tennessee 31-yard line.
You got it.
Guess what?
You got the whole game in your hands.
Right there.
And
McDaniels goes pass. He didn't call one run play. And what ends up happening? I'll tell you what ends up happening. That entire drive, after the Tannehill pick, you get a field goal, you pick Tannehill off, they lost 10 yards. They started that drive on the Tennessee 31. They had to punt from the Tennessee 41. And that's having no feel for the game.
And I don't know what this aversion to running the football is for Josh McDaniels, Nick, because they can run the football. They can move the ball. Josh Jacobs averaged over 5 yards a carry yesterday. Brandon Bolden averaged almost 6 yards a carry on his 3 carries. They can run the football effectively, and Josh McDaniels just doesn't see it. And that was a close game yesterday. If you fall behind big early in a game, I get if you have to get pass happy.
Right.
That wasn't the case yesterday. No. That wasn't the case. You were down 2 scores going into the second half, but it tightened up really quick, and it was a close game for most of the second half, and you just refused to run the ball. You know who we're not blaming today, though, Nick? Derek Carr. I don't think there's any blaming. He had a really good game yesterday and should have had an even better game. The interception he threw, that went right through Darren Waller's hands on the goal line, and I know he was about to get murdered by the linebacker that was coming across the middle, but if it hits you in the hands, I've had enough coaches tell me, not me, but I've heard enough coaches say, You got to make that catch. And then the 2-point conversion also goes right off of a receiver's hands.
Yep.
He should have been like 28 of 44 for 320 yards and 4 touchdowns instead of the good line he ended up with. He should have had a great line, and guys were letting him down all over that field.
I thought
including his coach.
I thought that Waller was entirely inconsistent yesterday.
Yes, he was.
He got in the way of Adams on the first touchdown attempt and probably stole a touchdown from Adams. He was in the wrong spot. You don't have 2 receivers in the same spot ever.
But I didn't think Adams had a chance at catching that and staying in bounds.
Maybe, I don't know. It's Devontae Adams. Like I'll
Sure.
give him a shot. He's that good. And then you mentioned he just blatantly dropped the touchdown later in the game. I thought he was very inconsistent. I also thought their front 7 was terrible in the first half. They got run over by Derrick Henry. Henry has not looked like the same guy.
Yeah,
yesterday he was
Derrick
having a
Henry,
parade. And they allowed him to get like 1,000 yards on check down passes. Nobody was within 15 yards of the guy on these check downs. I thought their front 7 had a rough first half, and Chandler Jones continues to disappoint. Another game, another week where he just doesn't show up. So it just,
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on who the color analyst was yesterday, but somebody would say, "Oh, you can't measure Chandler Jones and sacks and what you see in a box score. He's changed the way this Raiders defense is playing." I'm sorry, man. That guy's got to produce more than he's produced after he gets the contract that he got in the offseason.
I think it was Vilma.
Yes, it was.
916-339-1140 is the text line. Don't forget YouTube, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140, Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports.
Never officially gotten to meet you guys. Matt George.
Nice to meet you, Matt.
Joining us in about 10 minutes or so will be Trey Lyles. We'll play that interview for you. We caught up with Trey a little bit earlier in the show. Obviously, before the show, we had a couple of guys stop on by here at Media Day. The schedule, the way it worked, was like 1 to 4 or whatever it was, 1:30 to 4 o'clock. So you can't squeeze everybody into a 90-minute show, and they have schedules with these things. So you'll hear from Trey Lyles coming up in about 10 or 12 minutes. And also tomorrow, you'll hear from Keegan Murray. You'll hear from Malik Monk. We've got a lot of great stuff for you. And Dave and Jason in the morning. De'Aaron Fox. I saw those guys talking to De'Aaron earlier. Harrison Barnes, Kevin Herter. So as Ramie said earlier today, nobody in this city covers this team better than we do here at Sactown Sports. And thank Chris Watkins for his work today, and Nate Littlefield, who was out here as well.
Crushing it.
JJ back at the studio, being a one-man band.
Crushing it.
So thanks to everybody involved with it. It's been a good, productive day, and hopefully all the listeners enjoy what we've done today and what they'll hear tomorrow. So back to football before we get to the Trey Lyles interview. So when you look at Kyle Shanahan's night last night, we talked about the blame pie to start the show, and how much of this was on Jimmy, and how Kyle Shanahan did not help the team last night.
Didn't help Jimmy. Didn't help the team. That was a bad game for Kyle Shanahan.
Now we might feel a little bit different if Jimmy hits one of those two throws because they win, and you don't look at it as as intensely as you do, but the idea of, I don't know how you felt, declining the holding penalty, which set up a 55-yard field goal. And you're talking about McManus, and I know he missed one later on in the night, but guy's been pretty solid in altitude for a long time. And you could have pushed them out of field goal range last night by taking that penalty. And I know the thought was, oh, well, Russell Wilson can come up with a big – that Denver offense was awful last night. I give Wilson credit for the one drive. That offense was going nowhere. Your defense was playing great, and you could have backed them up 10 yards and put them in a very difficult position. And if you gain 5 yards or less on that third down, you're not kicking that field goal, you're punting. And so in a game that ended up being a 1-point difference, I thought declining that hold was a major mistake, and it's not hindsight 2020. I said it while I was watching the game. I thought that holding penalty should have absolutely been taken by Kyle and pushed him back even more. Here's what Shanahan had to say about declining that penalty last night. One more thing, 4th and 4. You're at the Denver 47, and you decide to punt instead of going for it. I didn't like that decision.
That's I disagreed with it, but to me that's a call that could go either way. The Russell Wilson thing, and he said the analytics people were telling him it was a 50-50 shot. Nick, we talked on the show on Friday. We were asking the question, you still scared of Russell Wilson? I think Kyle Shanahan was playing a little bit scared there and was going off the years and years of Russell Wilson just destroying this football team, 17-4 coming in with just ridiculous numbers, and let that play into his decision there more than what he had seen for 3+ quarters up until that point in the game. The Broncos, with Russell Wilson at quarterback, were having just as much trouble moving the ball as the 49ers were with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Let that set in for a second. And that's how good the 49ers defense was yesterday, but also how bad Russell Wilson and the Broncos were playing. If there was any unit that you were going to put your faith in last night to win you that football game, and Dan Campbell made the same mistake in Detroit yesterday, it was going to be your defense.
Yep.
And he took his defense off the field right there, essentially, in declining that penalty. I was, Nick, I'm doing the long distance thing with the girlfriend right now. So I was talking to her last. It was, nightly phone call time. So I turned down the game, and when he made that decision, I was like, wait, I got to be missing something. At that point, I paused the game
Right.
and waited until we were done
Like,
talking.
Am I seeing
Because
this
I was
right?
like, I got to be missing something here. I needed to hear what was going on and why Kyle Shanahan was doing it. It blew my mind when he made that decision.
And there's other little stuff too. You know I saw you tweeted about this last night, and I tweeted some of the same stuff with Debo. The Debo Samuel usage last night at running back, I don't get it, dude. I don't get why you're inside your own 5-yard line at the end of the first half and you're running Debo, especially right after he took a huge shot. I don't understand why you literally are doing nothing but running the clock down at the end of the first half, and you give Debo the carry.
That's the thing about it, Nick, is I disagree with throwing the towel in on that drive and just going into halftime with the lead as they chose to do. But if it's a white flag type of drive at the end of a half, why do you need to subject Debo to that punishment, especially right after he just came back on the field from an injury? What exactly is the point there? Give it to a fullback. I don't care who you give it to. If you're just running the ball to try and run out the clock and you're waving the white flag on that drive for the half, what is the thinking there to put the ball in Debo's hands and subject him to that punishment? That was another thing I couldn't wrap my head around.
Jordan Mason had like 1 carry last night. And somebody tweeted at me and said, well, who do you give the football to? I said, any running back on the roster instead of Debo.
Anybody but Debo.
It wasn't an important run. It made absolutely zero sense to give him the football in those instances. They were 1 for 10 offensively on 3rd down. That's on Kyle Shanahan. Some of it's on Jimmy G, but when you're 1 for 10, your play caller is not doing a fantastic job. So you can look at that and kind of scratch your head. Jeff Wilson, Mason, they combined for 13 carries last night. This team is defined by the run game, man. If you want to be successful with Jimmy Garoppolo, you got to run the football. And surprisingly so, I didn't think Kyle was too, committed or dedicated to running the football last night with those 2 guys. And I know he's trying to keep the Wilson carries down so he can stay healthy. But I'm telling you, again, Jordan Mason with 1 carry last night, why is he even on the active roster? I mean, I guess just in case Wilson gets hurt, but why not give the young man the football every once in a while?
I don't want to get back into the Jimmy G discussion / debate, although I don't know how much of a debate it was. But in my eyes, Nick, Kyle Shanahan had just as bad a night as Jimmy G did last night. Just as bad a performance from the head coach as you got from your quarterback, in my opinion, last night. With all the stuff we're laying out, it was just a poorly coached game from a play calling, game planning, strategy stand. No matter how you want to paint it, it was a rough night for the 49ers head coach last night.
Here's an insane stat. I think it was Nick Wagner from ESPN. He tweeted this out. In the second half of last night's game, you could take Debo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk. And those 3 guys combined had 2 touches for 5 yards. I mean, that is astoundingly bad. And George Kittle was a complete non-factor in that game.
Yeah, I forgot he was playing at one point.
And Trent Williams obviously goes down. Al Shire goes down. And when you're looking at, Trent Williams being out, it looks like it's a severe high ankle sprain, which means he's going to be out at least 6 weeks. And they tried to bring in Jalen Moore last night, and he lasted 1 series because he was god-awful. He almost got Jimmy G killed in his first series. So now this offensive line, which wasn't especially deep to begin the season, loses its best lineman. And you could argue that Trent Williams is the best player on this football team. He's right up there with Bosa.
Agreed.
And Warner you'd put in that list too, and Debo. But Trent Williams is one of your best players, so not great.
Everybody's talking about him pulling an Orlovsky last night. That was the same play where Trent Williams. That's what we because that's what's going to impact and affect this season more than Jimmy G making the stupid play to step out of the back of the end zone. But that's out of this game. That's going to be the most lasting thing for this 49ers football team and how the rest of this season plays out is Trent Williams and that high ankle sprain. That's a huge loss. And like you said, Nick, we don't know how long he'll be out today. Shanahan said there's too much swelling for them to get a good idea of how severe the ankle sprain is. I got to imagine that much swelling is probably a bad sign. I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that much swelling is a bad sign. And just a guy that large a human being.
Yeah.
walking around on a high ankle sprain or trying to play football on a high ankle sprain doesn't bode well. Again, in my non-expert medical opinion, does not bode well. That injury is going to be the thing from this game that we might be talking about weeks from now.
Yeah. It's time to check out Coastside Medical Clinic, dedicated to providing breakthrough remedies for men. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports, Kings Media Day on this Monday. Trey Lyles, you'll hear the interview that we had with him a little bit earlier today. You'll hear that in about 5 minutes or so. So you'll hear from Trey Lyles in just a few minutes. As we talk about the, just not very fun, not very aesthetically pleasing football game between the Niners and the Broncos last night, we also look at the Raiders. And, the Raiders now 0-3 on the season. I don't know where that texter is that was telling us that we weren't optimistic enough about the Raiders when we said they'd win 10 games.
10-7.
Where's that listener now?
Right.
Are they okay? That's what I want to know. But looking at this, and I found it interesting yesterday, Ramie. It was reported that Mark Davis met with Josh McDaniels once the game was over behind closed doors. McDaniels was with the owner for a while before he met with the media. And Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network was on the Pat McAfee show today, and they asked Ian about that meeting between Davis and McDaniels. I like how both McAfee and why am I forgetting his name? The guy who does the show with McAfee.
Oh,
Thank you, AJ
Yeah.
Hawk. I was going to say linebacker, Packers. Both of them kind of pushed back a little bit and said, wait, it happens all the time?
Before they talk to the media?
Before they talk to the media? Yeah, not so much. Look, I don't want to put too much into the meeting because I don't think McDaniels is in trouble of losing his job because, quite frankly, I don't think Mark Davis can afford another coach. He just went through the John Gruden experience and paid him a ton of money, and now he's paying Josh McDaniels a good amount of money. I don't think Davis is going to want to blow this up unless you win like 3 games or less. Then you might have to do it. But, man, the expectations, Ramie, for this football team and where they are right now at 0-3, they have been a massive, massive disappointment.
Tim, Nick, this was a playoff team last year. This is a playoff team last year, and you added Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones in the offseason. And you brought in Josh McDaniels to hopefully lift up the play of what was already a playoff team. I don't know if his seat is hot. You're probably right, Nick, after one season and being on the hook for all that money. Probably not hot. But maybe, and I'm not fire the coach guy.
Are you going to be fire the coach guy?
And I'm not going to be fire the coach guy right now. Certainly not after just 3 games. But the seat should be starting to warm up, Nick, and which is that's a long way for me to go 3 games into a season. But when you consider all the factors and where this football team is right now, and Josh McDaniels won his first 6 games as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Since then, he's gone 5-20, Nick. He's gone 5-20 as a head coach in his last 25 games. Maybe, just maybe, and the jury's still got to be out, maybe Josh McDaniels just isn't head coach material in this league.
5-20 is just a damning number. And we also can't forget that a lot of people talk about Bill Belichick. Well, Bill Belichick's coaching tree has not been very good. Brian Flores worked out really well in Miami before that crazy, funky stuff happened down there. But when you look across, Matt Patricia, Eric Mangini, Josh McDaniels, it does not bode well for McDaniels' future. Brian Daboll off to a decent start with New York. We'll see how all that works out. But Joe Judge didn't work out in New York before Daboll got there. So they have some major, major issues. I think play calling is a major issue. The defense has not been good enough. The front 7 has not been good enough. and the expectations were very, very high for this football team because they had so much talent. And one more thing I'll say about this is, like, if you look at this situation and, I keep hearing people saying, like, oh, well, they're going to be patient. They're going to be patient. When you make the moves they made, you don't have a lot of room for
Those
patience.
are win now moves.
No, not at all.
Those are win now moves.
He's Cattles. I am Ramie.
Wait.
We'll have Trey Lyles.
No, I'm Ramie. You're Cattles.
Is that what I said? Messed up?
Yeah.
Wow. He's Ramie. I'm Cattles. There you go. Mine's a little crazy. Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles be coming up next. You don't want to miss that. Trey Lyles from early today. Myself and Ramie, Sactown Sports. All right. So this is self-contained, right? All right. I'm going to go take a quick run to the bathroom.